Sup and welcome back to the Magic Den. My name is Brennan and today I'm going to be showing you one of my favorite decks of all time, my 60 card Squirrel deck. And I know 60 card isn't anybody's jam anymore. I can't get anybody from the Magic Den to play anymore. This is still one of my favorite decks. It's one of the decks that got me back into Magic, and if you like squirrels, you're definitely going to want to check this out.
Some people are afraid to walk outside. It's not because of a rise in crime or a spike in COVID cases. It's because of squirrels, of all things, that are attacking residents.
Okay, so I've taken the deck and split it into 4 sections. We've got our creatures, our enchantments and artifacts, instants and sorceries, and our lands. Now, this isn't the most optimized 60-card Squirrel deck out there. This was built when I got back into Magic maybe 3-ish years ago, and I wanted to build a deck that was kind of similar to my old Squirrel deck, which is kind of close to a 1.5 build, but using some of the new Squirrels that weren't out back then, like the Chatterfang and the Toski and a few other things. So it's going to hopefully make up for that lack of optimization by being blindingly shiny. Almost everything in this deck is foil except for one card, which I think you will agree needed to go in. And it was a fairly expensive deck to put together. But starting with the creatures, we're going to have Chatterfang. So Chatterfang's kind of the heart and soul of the deck. He is the Squirrel General. He is a 3-mana 3/3 with Forest Walk, and if one or more tokens would be created under your control, those tokens plus that many 1/1 green squirrel creature tokens are created instead. And most commander decks are using Chatterfang as the commander, including my own, which I'll make a video of one day too. But there is a second effect, which is also fantastic, and another reason why he is one of the best green commanders out there. You can pay a black to sacrifice X squirrels to target creature and give it plus X minus X until the end of turn. So you're rarely using this for a buff, but you're often using this for a ping to give it a minus to the toughness, killing it. But this deck doesn't use the Pitiless Plunderer combo that's often seen in the commanders. This is just a mono green deck. But anyway, so we got 3 Chatterfangs. And then we go into the Squirrel Sovereigns. There's 4 of them. This is a Squirrel Lord. It's a 2-mana 2/2. Other squirrels you control get +1/+1. Pretty basic. I'm running 4 of these. And we've got 4 Squirrel Mobs. It's a 3-mana 2/2 that's getting +1/+1 for each other squirrel on the battlefield, which hopefully with Chatterfang generating squirrel tokens, doubling them at least, that will be a lot. So sometimes he gets really big. He doesn't have Trample or anything, but out of the 4 I've got 2 Secret Lairs. I've got the Squirrel Mob from Odyssey. And then I got this Modern Horizons one. And we've got 2 Toskis. So Toski is a 4-mana, which is actually the highest mana cost in the deck. He's a 4-mana squirrel, can't be countered, indestructible, and must attack each turn each combat if able. So that doesn't usually become a problem because he's indestructible. But the real effect here that you're getting your mana's worth out of this is whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, draw a card. And with a squirrel deck like this, you're going wide, you're playing a bunch of tokens that are hopefully being doubled by Chatterfang. When you swing out, even if a bunch die, you're going to get a lot through and draw hopefully a mitt full of cards and get into some other combos or some more token generating shenanigans. So we got 2 of those Toskis. I only run 2 because it's a legendary creature, and I don't know, 2 seems to be good. Plus, there's not a whole lot of room, which is why there's only 1 of these, Ravenous Squirrel. It's a great 1-drop, 1 mana, 1/1. You can pay either a black or a green, and whenever you sacrifice an artifact or a creature, you put a 1/1 counter on it. So this can go infinite with some combos with like Pitiless Plunderer. When you start sacking, this will get infinitely big because you're sacking all the treasures and the creatures. And it also has a pay 3 to sacrifice an artifact or creature. You gain 1 life and draw a card, which is great in a pinch. I've used that ability. It's nice having an extra ability like that on a 1-drop too. This is the worst squirrel in the deck, and possibly the worst squirrel ever made. This is a Frozen Beast, the Secret Lair art. The original art looks terrible, but this one looks awesome. It's got a bunch of little squirrels worshiping this crazy squirrel beast. He's so big, he's got a tree growing out of his leg. He's got a bunch of squirrels around it worshiping it. And this is actually the very first squirrel they ever printed that had the squirrel creature type. Prior to that, there was one card that generated tokens, but this was the first actual Squirrel. This is a 4-mana 1/1 that is generally always a 4-mana 1/1 because its effect is Threshold. You have to have 7 cards in your graveyard, which in this deck with a bunch of flashbackers and token generating, it's not really something that happens a lot. And it gets +7/+7, which is great, but you have to have those 7 cards in your graveyard. Other than that, it's a 4-mana 1/1, which it tends to always be. This is a Squirrel Wrangler, which is in here for flavor. It's terrible, but I have won one game with this card. It's a 4-mana 2/2 that you can pay 2 mana to sacrifice a land, which is always horrible. Create 2 1/1 green squirrel creature tokens. And you can pay 2 mana to sacrifice a land. Squirrel creatures get +1/+1 until the end of turn, which is, I think, what I had to do was pay and jack up my squirrels to tack and get that extra pinch of damage in. But in general, not a fantastic card. Why is there a bunch of rabbits in there? That's got to be squirrels, right? They got such long ears, though. It's got like one squirrel on his head and a bunch of rabbits. Anyway, we're going to go to the Nut Collector. This one I do have the original Odyssey, which is kind of nice. It also has Threshold, because I guess that was the Odyssey thing. I remember playing during that time, but I don't really remember too well which abilities were kind of the set pieces at the time. This is at the beginning of your upkeep. You may put a 1/1 green squirrel creature token into play. And 6 mana for a 1/1. So it's a 6 mana for a 1/1 that generates a token. Once per upkeep. Not great. But we do have a fantastic staple here, the crown jewel of the deck, my Foily Deranged Hermit. So this card here is part of some combos too. I just use him as the 5 mana. When he comes into play, put 4 squirrel tokens into play. You can treat them as 1/1 green creatures. All squirrels get +1/+1. You do have to pay the Echo, which is a steep cost because he's 5 mana for a 1/1. That seems to be a reoccurring theme with the Squirrel deck, overpaying for 1/1s. But he actually has a great effect. He generates a lot of tokens. And when you have something like Earthcraft out, you generate those 4 tokens. And if you have Chatterfang out, you play Deranged Hermit. He's generating 4 tokens, which gets doubled into 8, which can immediately be tapped to untap your land. So you're actually +3 on an exchange like that for mana. You'll actually get more mana back than you put out.
Yoink!
So in this deck, we're running 4 Squirrel Nests, a 3 mana enchant land that gives that land tap, put a 1/1 green squirrel creature token into play. Now this card combos off of Earthcraft. Now Earthcraft's banned in like every 60 card format, but I'm running in this one because, hey, because I'm playing with friends that don't care. This is the only non-foil card in the deck because it was printed back when they didn't have foils. And this allows you to tap an untapped creature you control to untap target basic land. So if you don't know how this combo works, basically you have this enchantment in play, your Squirrel Nest is equipped to a basic forest, and you can tap that forest to generate a squirrel token. That squirrel token comes into play, you can tap that squirrel token to untap the land, because Earthcraft is allowing you to tap an untapped creature, your squirrel token, to untap basic land, which is the forest equipped with Squirrel Nest, which you can now tap again to play a squirrel token, tap the squirrel token to, with Earthcraft, untap your Squirrel Nest, and you do that a bazillion times, and you have a bunch of tapped squirrels, besides the last one, but yeah, and then on your following turn, if you still have them, you can swing out, or you have basically unlimited mana with your Earthcraft. A whole bunch of stuff is possible with Earthcraft, which is why it's probably banned in every 60 card format. So 4 Squirrel Nests in the deck, all super nice foils. Took me a little while to get those. And we've got 2 Chitter Spitters. So Chitter Spitter is a 3 mana artifact that at the beginning of your upkeep you may sacrifice a token. If you do, put an acorn counter on Chitter Spitter. Squirrels you control get +1/+1 for each acorn counter on Chitter Spitter. And it accumulates them pretty quickly. Those upkeeps kind of happen fast, and it doesn't take too long before all your squirrels are +4/+4, and so you're swinging out for 10 5/5s. You can also pay a mana and generate tokens with this, which is fantastic, because sometimes you just need something to generate tokens to either use as fodder for destruction or attacking. You know, it's a squirrel deck. It always needs tokens. So having another squirrel generator, token generator, as well as being able to buff them all is fantastic. So it's running 2. Sylvan Anthem is something that's kind of aged out, and I think probably now if I rebuilt this, I would probably not run these, but it's a good 2 mana. Green creatures you control get +1/+1, and whenever a green creature enters the battlefield under your control, scry 1. And I originally was playing this as if I summoned 4, I would just scry once. But I found out when playing Arena, no, you scry for every single one. So if I play 8, which is really annoying in Arena because sometimes you get a card that you want to keep and you just want it on the top and you have to click pass. But anyway, yeah, 2 of these. I used to run more, but now I'm just running 2. Druid's Call, old school classic, 2 mana enchant creature. Whenever that creature is dealt damage, its controller puts that many 1/1 green squirrel creature tokens into play. So you can put this on something like even your Toski because it's indestructible, and anytime it takes damage, it's going to generate squirrels. It's awesome. Not awesome enough to run a bunch of them, but awesome enough to run 1 for flavor. And we have Nantuko Shrine. Now, this card is actually objectively bad, but it's flavorful. So whenever a player plays a spell, it's a 3 mana enchantment, and whenever a player plays a spell, that player puts X number of 1/1 green squirrel creature tokens into play, where X is the number of cards in all graveyards with the same name as that spell. And since it's 60 cards, it's generally just a 2-player format, but this means they're also generating squirrels every time they play a spell that they have copies of in their graveyard. So it's kind of fun. They don't usually generate more because there's a decent amount of play sets in here, and there's all the doublings and stuff. So you're giving them a bit, but you're getting a little bit more in return. So we're going into sorceries and instants, and we're going to start off with the classic Chatter of the Squirrel. 1 mana sorcery, put a 1/1 green squirrel creature token into play. Like 40% of my games, if not more, start with this card as my opening card. And it's got flashback, so on your turn 2, you can play out a second squirrel for it too. So this deck runs 4 of these guys. The art is awesome. You gotta love that squirrel just spitting out a little blood. Now we go to our Acorn Harvest, which I also run 4 of, and this card is kind of slow. I don't run it in my commander, but it is great for this closer to old school deck. Acorn Harvest is a 4 mana sorcery that puts 2 1/1 green squirrel creature tokens into play. They're untapped too, which is fantastic because the verdant commands put them into play tapped. So these come into play untapped, and so you can tap them right away with Earthcraft if you need them. And it also has flashback, so you can pay 2 mana and pay 3 life to get those again. And often you're getting 4 because you're playing this when you've got Chatterfang out. So we've got 4 of the Acorn Harvests in the deck, and then we've got 4 Verdant Commands. Verdant Command is a 2 mana instant that you can choose 2 abilities from, and I always pick the same 2. I gain 3 life, and I generate 2 tapped squirrel creature tokens. In my commander, sometimes I've used this to give my opponent 2 squirrels so I can trigger a Defense of the Heart, but generally I'm giving myself 2 tapped squirrels. Those are getting doubled, and you're gaining 3 life. You can also exile a card from a graveyard, which is something that can probably come in handy. Counter target loyalty ability of a planeswalker is interesting for a green, but not something I've ever used them for. Now the lands are pretty basic. It is a mono green deck after all, so it's only 3 different types of lands. And the first is the most important, bestest land ever for squirrel decks or rat decks, the Swarm Yard. Now this card comes into play untapped, and it taps to add a colorless, and it can also tap to regenerate target insect, rat, spider, or squirrel. So this can be used to protect your Chatterfang. You just tap it when somebody tries to use a removal spell, and that's pretty much why they're in the deck, is to protect Chatterfang. So 4 of them keeps it nice and consistent. The black mana in the deck is being produced by 4 woodland cemeteries, and I should run some basic swamps in the deck. I tried that. I was just kept getting them when I needed forests, and there's a lot of heavy green pips. Like most of the cards take several green pips, and so I just was running into the situation where I was getting too much black mana. So these 4 tend to be good enough. I only need black mana in the 1 pip for Chatterfang, so 4 of them has been consistent enough. As long as I get 1 in a game, I'm golden. And we've got 12 forests, which in this deck, they're all the Infinity ones, though I call them the Grape Lands, because I really like the artwork. Now, it doesn't necessarily jive with the squirrel theme. I should probably switch these lands out eventually. As soon as I discovered these lands, I was like, they're so nice, and I started collecting them and putting them in this deck. But yeah, it looks like I got about half of them Galaxy Foil too. That is the rest of the deck, though. I hope you enjoyed checking out my 60 card Squirrel deck. I have 4 Squirrel decks. I've got 2 60 cards and 2 commanders, and I'd love to show them to you guys all eventually. If you like this, please leave a thumbs up, subscribe, and I hope to see you next time.